I recently went from someone who drew on and off on an occasion to someone who is fully capable of putting out a 90-second animated short, and reasonably that got a lot of questions. In hopes of encouraging others into jumping headfirst into what I like to call gateway projects, I wanted to sit down and answer some of the questions y'all have been asking. Now first you might be asking yourself, what the heck are gateway projects? Whenever I find myself interested in some sort of new hobby, weirdly enough, I'm not usually interested in it at the macro level. For example, I never sat down and thought, wow, I really want to learn how to do tap dance. What I have thought are, oh my God, I'm absolutely obsessed with the Moses Opposes tap dance from Singing in the Rain, and I have to learn it today. Same with scuba diving, something I've become very obsessed with over the quarantine. My original intent was never just, oh my God, I'd love to try scuba diving. It was heavily encouraged by the fact I found out you could scuba dive in between tectonic plates in Iceland and knew at some point in my life I had to do it. What I like about gateway projects is that they are a phenomenal proving ground to see if you're actually interested in the skill itself. You set this really kind of daunting high bar for something, you try to achieve it, and along the way you figure out if you actually like the thing or not. Ultimately, that's why I undertook this project in the first place. I saw Zizo B's anime OP during one of the media shares a few months ago and thought, wow, that seems like a fun project to do too. Super sorry, dude, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. So I always want to make sure I heavily shout out their video first. This is their original idea, not mine. So again, in hopes of encouraging other people to take on some fun, interesting projects, I wanted to sit down and answer the variety of questions I got about the OP, about what's coming next, and just drawing and animation in general. Question number 1, have you animated anything before? No. I've done a couple of 2-frame animations for videos or for animated GIFs and things like that, but I would definitely not count them as traditional animation. I used to draw a substantial amount that's kind of dwindled ever since I became an adult, but I'm trying to get back into it and this was an avenue to do so. Next question is, what is the OP that yours is based off of? The OP I used as my base is for the one for Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken. It came out a few years ago, it's only been 1 season so far, and ironically it's about a group of high school girls that for their school club create their own anime project. I picked it for a variety of reasons. The fact that it's not that common of an OP was really nice. It had a tremendous amount of opportunity to easily include memes from the stream within it, and the animation style wasn't substantially difficult. It's actually rather simplistic when you compare it to a lot of other competitors for that like slice of life style. In addition to the style being simple, I noticed when I was reviewing the different ones I could use that it used a lot of static shots. Because I had never animated anything before, I was looking for something that would at least rely on some creative use of static images that either through Premiere or through Procreate itself, I could use to kind of feign animation. The easiest place you can see that is the pinwheel section that's early on in the OP where they're just spinning around. Those are all just static images that are being rotated slowly over time. I also would be lying if I said I didn't pick it simply because of the song. I'm obsessed with Kelmiko, who are the Japanese rappers that do this song called Easy Breezy. They also just put out a brand new song called San Okuen. I highly recommend it. If you're looking for other Japanese music artists that I really like, there's also Frederick and 31989. Next up is how much time did it take? It took a shitload of time. It took a tremendous amount of time. I started this officially, according to my notes, on August 15th and finished everything, had it published and loaded into YouTube on November 18th. I tried to log as much time as I was spending on it, and it's around 90 hours of work for a 90-second video. If you don't know a lot about animation or just videos in general, a lot of them are filmed at a frame rate of 24 frames a second. That means for every single second that you see of film, there are 24 individual pictures that make up the movement to make it smooth. 24 is usually the standard for animation. It's the one that I used for this project. So that means if every single second was absolutely a unique picture, that's over 2,000 individual images. Now, like I said, there was a lot of static images and there was some stuff that I used to cut a few corners, but I would argue I at least created 1,000, if not more, individual unique images. Aside from that, there was also a huge learning curve that you definitely have to build into the time it took to create this project. Everything from designing the characters to figuring out if I wanted to export the images as animations in Procreate or individual images, how I would move them over, the process for doing that. There was just so many steps to figure out that I had no precedent for doing so, and so obviously that added a significant buffer of time. Next question is, what tools did you use? I've already kind of teased this, but primarily I used my iPad, which I believe is a 2nd gen iPad Pro. I used Procreate on that iPad to do all of the drawing, and then I render them all together using Adobe Premiere. If you're looking to get into animation, you definitely do not have to use Adobe Premiere to do so. I have the luxury of having access to it through work, and it's something I've been using for all of my video editing, so it was just a software I was familiar with. As long as the video editing software allows you to get clips small enough to actually render things at like 24 frames a second, it should be fine, no matter what you choose. Next up is, what was the overall process for creating this project? Like I said in the beginning, step one was finding an adequate base. I knew how to draw relatively well, but I had no frame of reference for how many images were needed for certain pieces of animation, how to smear movements so that things look more fluid, how to time things well with music, etc. So having something that I would use as a base and a reference was definitely needed for this first time project. It also served as a great source of inspiration, right? The OP I used had a variety of segments. They had ones where the characters were spinning, they had ones where they had that tile approach in to introduce a main character, they had dancing shots that allowed for people to see the credits easily. So all those points were things that I definitely needed to learn about before creating something completely unique on my own. Step 2 was downloading that OP, cutting it into a variety of pieces, and importing all of those video clips into Procreate. Earlier I mentioned this was at 24 FPS and it's 90 seconds long, so having all of those images in one file in Procreate would be impossible. I believe I split them up by the 3-second mark, so every clip that was 3 seconds long was its own individual file in Procreate. That allowed me to have the amount of layers I would need and keep things organized. I could kind of work through them and check them off as I knew that that piece was completed. Step 3 was by far the most time consuming and also the most fun, and it was just planning out and storyboarding the animation itself. Now that everything was divided and organized in a nice fashion, it was easy to kind of iterate through each section and see how I would transform it to meet the subject matter that I was doing. I basically had to go through and pick which characters in the Azoken OP and how they would be recast as people from Wubby's Twitch stream. Once I'd picked those, I kind of redesigned their character in a similar fashion to the Azoken characters just so that it meshed well, and then also used parts of their animation to help track mine. For example, oftentimes I would simply trace the hands for all of those dancing portions and then use those to map where my characters should be. Obviously, man, woman, Azoken, or Wubby, hands are pretty much going to look the same, and they were a great tool to know where I stood according to how the animation was going. Hands would be traced, I would wireframe everything else, and that way my animation would easily match where the other ones would be, and it didn't look too janky. And then step 4 was I drew. A lot. 90 seconds, baby, was over 90 hours of work, and I know I said a lot of it was planning and thinking and learning, but a tremendous amount of that was drawing. It essentially became part of my nighttime routine. Oftentimes when I was watching the stream, I was drawing and using that as inspiration for memes that would pop up over time. If you really want to know how long the drawing portion took, Alex's hair color is actually a really good litmus test for when I started the drawing portion. That is one thing I'm heavily considering for future projects, is that the design of the characters might kind of expire over time. When I started, Peanut wearing bucket hats and the ear piercing stuff was really recent content, but by the time it was done, it was kind of a dead meme. And step 5, but it was kind of while I was doing step 4, was exporting the individual images and importing them into Adobe Premiere. Now Procreate allows you to actually export files as videos themselves, like as an animation file. However, because I wanted a lot of creative control over my images in the actual formal animation itself, I exported them as individual images so I could kind of tweak the length of them if needed. I would argue that is a part where I could probably have saved a lot of time, but because I was so new to it and was still kind of playing around and figuring stuff out, it was a necessary evil. And voila! In just a couple months, I went from an extremely mediocre artist to an even more mediocre animator, but I did have a complete project under my belt, so that's something. The next question is, will there be a season 2 OP? The short answer is yes, but not for a very long time. I kind of just used up all of the recent stream memes, and also, kind of like the confession stream, I'd like the idea of it to die down. I'd like it to be kind of a pseudo surprise, like this one was. I want there to be enough time for people to forget, and also enough time for there to be new memes to include that would represent what would normally be like season 2 of a regular show. A huge reason why I made this was to reflect the amount of fun I've had as part of this community ever since quarantine started. And I would love that community's input to make this season 2 one even better. I'm basically using my Twitter as the home base of posting any type of updates about this, and so far I've been pretty consistent about it. Recently, I created a thread that represented the bases I was considering for season 2, but because you lucky bastards are part of my YouTube audience, I'll tell you that I've already narrowed it down to a final 3. These are the 3 I am considering for the season 2 anime OP's base. In the comments below, please let me know which one you prefer. I do have a sinking suspicion that it will be one of these in particular, and that is creating a lot of anxiety about living up to the prestige of that classic OP, but that makes it even more fun. If you'd like to follow on the journey, give input, have an opportunity to be referenced in the credits like a lot of people were in the season 1 one, you can either A, follow me on Twitter at SideQuestinLife, not SideQuestingLife, or if you are just here purely for Wubby content, you have no care in the world for who I am, no hard feelings, you can actually follow the hashtag, which is PMWS02, so Pay Money Wubby Season 2. The final question that I'll leave you all kind of hanging on as a little bit of a teaser is, did willro respond? Now that question is in reference to a little bit of a call out I did. Another huge inspiration for these types of projects are other creators in the community, willro in particular. He's created a series of phenomenal songs that, whether or not you're a Wubby fan or not, are just really good songs. I reached out to him through the OP. He was like, hey, I'd love to, maybe collab for a season 2. I can't spill the beans. That doesn't make this fun. I can't spill the beans. And so I will leave it at this. I've had the pleasure of speaking with multiple people who are much more talented than I am to potentially help out with season 2. What that means, you decide. And that concludes today's little impromptu Q&A. If you like me and my content, or you're looking forward to more Wubby content, go ahead and click subscribe down below. It'd mean a lot to me. I'm so close to hitting 500 subscribers, and that would be a huge milestone. And leave a like or comment if you like this. You have some commentary, have some Wubby 7s, have some criticism, let me know. All of it is great. And best of luck on any projects that you want to create. Working on this was really, really inspirational. It was fun to connect with so many other creators. And I'm kind of a lurker in most Twitch streams, so this was a first time hearing from so many other people. It really meant a lot. Thank you so much. I will see y'all next time, and have a wonderful weekend. Cheers. Oh, one of y'all motherfuckers was commenting about my chair switching colors, and I wanted to respond to that too. I'm in the middle of building a new office chair, and so I had an orange drape over this one to cover up for the fact that it doesn't really match my background aesthetic, and someone called out when I re-recorded something and left that off. So if that was you, why yada. Every time I put my hair behind my ear, I'm like, I feel like Radio Rebel, that Radio Rebel clip where she's like,